It's Monday, January 27th, 2020. Digital Trends Live is about to start. Here are some of the topics we'll cover today. The era of foldable devices continues on with the official release of the Motorola Razr. Pre-orders are now being taken. We'll give some details on our review of the new phone. And we'll begin our week-long coverage of Super Bowl 54 from Miami with Caleb Dennison and Riley Wynn embedded with Fox Sports to give you a behind-the-scenes look at the broadcast. We'll also have the CMO of OneDine, Shama Hyder, on the show to discuss innovation in the restaurant industry and how they can provide the power of multiple apps at your fingertips. And from the New York Times, we'll be joined by Kashmir Hill. She has an incredible article up about a controversial company called Clearview AI that has been selling its technology services to police departments, allowing them to use facial recognition software to identify anyone they want. All that and more on today's episode of Digital Trends Live. Hello, everyone. This is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, bringing you trending tech headlines, news, interviews, discussions, and so much more. We're broadcasting live across a number of different platforms. We're on Periscope, Twitter, Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Dailymotion, Apple News, 2 different mobile apps, a smart television app, and at digitaltrends.com/live. So wherever you're finding us, you can join in the conversations that we get to have. We've got a lot to cover today, and I thank everybody who's joining us. So let us know what you want to talk about, what you think about these trending topics. Let's get it going here first. So I'm Greg Nibbler with Adrienne Warner. Hello, Adrienne.
Hello. Happy Monday.
Yes, indeed. It is. It's Monday again. We're almost done with January in 2020, and it feels weird. But let's go to some topics here. So we need to talk about something right at the top of the show. And obviously, this is a tech program. We talk about tech news and headlines, but there's no denying the impact of something that happened yesterday, and that was the surprising and shocking death of Kobe Bryant and his daughter and 7 other people in a helicopter crash in Los Angeles. I think we all probably found out about this it's one of those things you always remember how you found out about it. I mean, whether it's via text, whether somebody calling you, somebody letting you know about it, and you think it's fake, and it wasn't. And there's certainly a lot that can be talked about with Kobe Bryant. Everybody else is doing it. Everybody else is covering this. There's so many different angles. His life wasn't without controversy. I mean, I can say on the NBA side of things, for myself, being a lifelong Portland Trail Blazers fan, he ruined my day many times because he was so great on the court. I was also formerly an employee of the NBA, so I covered him quite a bit. And just some of the amazing things he was able to do on the basketball court will never be matched. I mean, it's unparalleled how great he was. And so that's part of the story of him. Part of what I think really impacts people is when you see somebody this great, this huge, just bigger than life personality, and have them just take it away that quickly in a helicopter crash. It kind of reminds everybody of your own mortality. There's a lot to really analyze with it, but definitely a shocking thing to happen yesterday. So with all that, that's part of his story. There's also something else that we wanted to bring up and just talk about from our angle, since we are a tech website, and that is his involvement in other aspects of technology, actually, after his NBA career. And it's pretty incredible, some of the things that he was actually invested in that will, these are things that will have an effect on the tech industry, at least as far as his interest in that and some of his creativity and the ways that he was able to push boundaries on certain things. And I know, Adrienne, this is something that I was actually unaware of.
I was as well, in his few short years of retirement, and even prior to that, Bryant was really interested in tech, even though he, constantly said he wasn't tech savvy, but he really had a passion for it. And him and his partner created the VC firm Bryant Stibel in 2013, and they brought their, the brand, their iconography, and then Stibel was, an entrepreneur and CEO of Web.com, and they brought a long list of successful companies to the forefront by investing in them, such as, the tracker maker Tile that we're all familiar with.
Yeah.
They invested in Epic Games, Alibaba, the retail giant, all kinds of programs like Get Report, VIP Kid, LegalZoom, like we've all heard commercials for that. So they really had a far and wide-ranging impact, not just in the world of sports, but also in the world of tech.
Yeah, it's an interesting angle to his story, and clearly something that was going to continue on that was cut short. I mean, another thing, too, in case a lot of people don't know, he's also an Oscar winner because of a poem that he put out about his love of basketball that was then turned into an animated short. He got an Oscar for that. So kind of set up for another incredible ride in his career. And, however you want to look at this, it's a tragedy, and certainly, calling attention to the fact too that his daughter also passed away, and all of the other people that were on this helicopter crash. It's an awful thing that happened. It's something that I think we're all trying to process, but understanding a little bit more of the story is good, and understanding this tech angle as well. So I guess, there's not a lot more for us to say on this, but certainly you feel for the families, you feel for the friends, feel for everybody who knew him personally, and there's a lot for everybody to process on that. Certainly for the city of Los Angeles, what Kobe Bryant meant to them. I mean, it's clear it was a lot, and I'm sure we'll have more here in the coming days, but we just wanted to acknowledge that at the top of the show. It's something we all went through, however your angle is on it. We all went through that yesterday, so RIP Kobe Bryant, and we'll continue on here now with our coverage at Digital Trends. All right, let's talk about some other trending topics.
Let's move on to another top story. So we are less than 2 weeks away from Iowans putting in their Democratic pick for the presidential nominee, and there's a lot of security concerns mounting around the app that they're using to pick that nominee. So caucus managers in Iowa are, and then later in Nevada, will be choosing their nominee via a mobile app, and there's just a lot of concern around the privacy, around the around these apps, and the security concerns that they raise after, especially what happened with the 2016 election.
Right. I mean, there's so much that went. At least as far as it seemingly went wrong, there's so much concern about security, so much concern about everything associated with how we vote, and whether it's real or not, it's something that's at the forefront of everybody's mind. And the problem, I think, also with this is just the way that it's being very secretive. So they said that they don't want to say who developed the app,
right,
what the app is, so we don't even know. We don't have an image of the app because they haven't released it. But there's different issues that come up with that as far as security experts who say, the Democratic side, as far as them, they're saying that since they're doing that, nobody's going to know what it is. That way, it's less likely to be hacked.
Right, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it can't be hacked. That attackers are not going to be able to find out what it is, or And another huge security concern is that it's being downloaded on personal phones of these caucus managers, which means immediate access to personal information. They did put out a statement, the Democratic Party Chairman Troy Price put out a statement saying that this is just one of the multiple measures that they're using to track votes. Yeah. That they also have paper and a phone line, but it does just kind of raise the awareness of how fragile, this ecosystem that they're building can be, and how easily targeted it is.
Yeah, and it's what role is tech? What role does tech have in this? Because you want to think anything that's going to make it easier, more reliable, to track better. And it sounds like, from what they're saying, this app, would be a great way to do that. But security, that is just such a huge concern. And if you have it on private phones, personal phones, I mean, how many of us trust everybody to always never click on the bad link,
Right, or how many of us, how many of us hop on, public Wi-Fi that you will already have access to, and you don't even know. You just walk in that door and you're already signed on, to that cafe Wi-Fi or whatever example. But, like you said, what role does tech play in this? And accessibility is a huge factor. It is important that mobile apps are being developed for voting so that more people have access to it, and they're not just relying on people physically there at the polls, but at what cost does this all come at? Because
in Seattle right now with King County, they're going to have that election. It's not for a major thing, no knock against what this was, but it was for a kind of a minor position, but still they're going to have all of King County be able to vote via mobile app, via phone. And so I think that's a great way to, an ideal world, that's great. How this gets executed, I think, is a concern. I think transparency when it comes to what they're doing for security is going to be important. And maybe, luckily this is happening right now at the caucus, and it hasn't even happened yet. Clearly the Iowa Caucus hasn't happened. So maybe we'll get some more transparency and get some things worked out. But it's going to be a concern going forward. Just how do we balance this? How do we figure out how we're going to vote and what the best way is? Tech definitely has a role, but security's got to be number one when it comes down to that. You can read more about that too at digitaltrends.com. All right, let's talk about some other things. Let's talk about some products.
Yeah, right, absolutely.
So let's get to the gadget side of things. And this has to do with another foldable device being released. We knew it was on its way. Got delayed a little bit, but now you can finally pre-order the Motorola Razr foldable phone. There it is in all its glory. It's got the screen on the outside when it's folded, but then folded open, just like that classic, Motorola flip phone. There is the screen, and you can pre-order it right now. It's $1,500.
It's a whopping $1,500. It is hotly anticipated. I mean, people have
Yeah.
a lot of nostalgia for this brand in general.
Huge.
But the piece that's coming out today that we're going to talk about is the protections that Motorola wants you to take around the phone and the precautions in using it, which are actually quite lengthy.
They really are. They're going all out. So they released a series of videos about how to care for your phone, and we've got an article up right now, Corey Gaskin, kind of walking through what it is and what it exactly means, and it's a lot. So part of this, trying to analyze everything that they're saying, part of it is they said that sometimes the screen is made to bend, bumps and lumps are normal. And what does that mean? So that is something that's brought up in the video. Bumps and lumps are normal. When it's a $1,500 phone, and the whole thing is this foldable screen, I don't know if I want a bunch of bumps and lumps.
No, I don't
That's
think
not
I do
good.
either. And they don't, mention around what is it, the hinge, and in general, just you don't want that. Another major thing that I thought was kind of crazy is they say don't use a screen protector, which we're so used to putting on our phones nowadays. Once we have these really beautiful screens,
Yeah.
you could have it open and then you could drop it and it could easily break.
Yeah. You know who didn't put a screen protector on their phone? Me. Now my screen is shattered. It actually is.
You might need a new phone.
Learned my lesson. Yeah. But yeah, I would definitely want to put a screen protector on
Yeah.
a $1,500 phone. You would think they'd come up with something proprietary that would help protect that.
You would hope so, but yeah, there's a lot of requirements around this super expensive phone, and I don't know. I'm very curious once we get our hands on it, once Corey can review it and
Right.
what their thoughts are on all of this. Another thing that said is to not put it open-faced in your pocket or your purse.
Right.
So that's a delicate screen. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I mean, and then on top of that, what does that mean for the other screen that's actually on the outside when it's folded?
Right.
So a lot of kind of questions there. I do think the design is still cool.
It's still
I mean,
super
I'm
slick.
a fan of the design.
I'll be honest, I think it's really cool. I think I would be really into it. This is kind of the first foldable device that I was like, actually, yes, I would consider that. If it wasn't $1,500.
Right. Yeah. That part that removes it from it for me. But I do like this idea. Like if this comes out and it's successful, then it starts rolling down. Then it gets less expensive, and we start seeing more designs. But either way, the nostalgia factor, definitely hits on that. So
I can finally cash in on having a Razr phone when all of my friends had them, and I did not.
and now you can have it for $1,500, Adrian. All right. Check that out at digitaltrends.com.
All right, well, speaking of curved screens, Apple has filed a design patent for a brand new screen that could mean an all-in-one computer on one piece of glass. It's very futuristic looking.
It is.
And I know that, there's always speculation around patents and things like that. Was this actually going to be created or come out? But the interesting part of this is that the keyboard would actually be embedded in the glass as well as the screen.
Yeah, I mean, it's, patents, like you said, sometimes these come to fruition, sometimes they don't. But this one does seem very Apple-y, like they would actually do something like this. So one piece of foldable glass, and then in theory, the hardware and everything would be in the stand or whatever's right behind it. They also showcased some ideas of maybe you could fold it up, so it could be something you could take along with you.
Right, kind of almost like a tablet-esque device.
Yeah.
Or, because the desktop makes sense, but how would that incorporate into a MacBook when you're taking it on the go with you for a laptop?
Yeah, then that part of that other patent there they just showed too was using your laptop with it, so it would slide in underneath.
Oh, that's cool.
And then, so then you could still use the keyboard with it. I don't know, plug into it somehow. I love seeing these kinds of things, though, when they come out, just to think about what these companies are working on. Because, they've got so many different designs they're working on. And then this was one where okay, we better get a patent on this one because
absolutely.
this could be real.
It looks really cool. I mean, now I just want to physically see it.
Yeah. Well, that's where we're at on that one. So you can take a look more about that at digitaltrends.com and let us know what you think about that patent. So again, just keeping you up to date on some tech headlines and news here to start the show off. We appreciate everybody who is watching, no matter where you're finding us. This is always fun. We get to enjoy these conversations together, so let us know what you want to talk about. Coming up next, we've got Caleb Dennison and Riley Wynn, who are down in Miami for the entire week for the Super Bowl to do some behind-the-scenes looks at how the Super Bowl is going to be broadcast. It's a rough job they've got, but they're going to
I'm not
try
jealous
to.
at all.
No. So they're going to join us here in a minute and just talk about how miserable that's been. But no, seriously, we're going to talk about the technology behind it. It's really cool. 4K HDR or 1080p, and Caleb's going to give us the whole rundown on that, how it's being broadcast, what's being done. That's why he's the expert. So he's going to be joining us here in just a minute with Riley. But first off, Adrian, thank you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Always. And thanks to everybody who's joining us. So again, wherever you're watching, hit that subscribe button, share the show. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. And hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you, everyone, for joining us wherever you're watching. We do appreciate it. Hit that subscribe button. I'm Greg Nibbler, and we have something awesome that we're doing here this week for Digital Trends, and that is we are down in Miami getting you a behind-the-scenes look at how the Super Bowl is broadcast and so much more. And handling that rough job for us, we have our own Caleb Dennison and Riley Wynn, who are live now from Miami, somewhere on the beach. I don't know what they're doing exactly. That's what they're going to talk about. Hello, gentlemen. How are you doing down there?
Doing great, Greg. How are you?
I am doing well. So let's talk about what's going on, what you guys are doing down in Miami, what this amazing coverage is that we have. Let's get kind of a rundown of what's happening.
Well, right now we are on South Beach, as you pointed out, in the iconic and historic sort of Art Deco district where Fox has set up an absolutely massive fans. I mean, this place is huge, right?
It's almost, what, 2 city blocks?
Yeah.
It is freaking huge, and it's not just all the stages. There's a bunch of other cool stuff. Like, you can't see it right now. It's behind the camera. There's a massive Ferris wheel.
Yep, big old Ferris wheel. We got the beach going on. But, I mean, more importantly, Fox is running almost all of their program this week right here. They've got two. The stage behind us is actually the alternate stage. It's the little one, and it's amazing. And then, of course, they've got a great big main stage where they're running most of their programming from right here on the beach.
Yeah, we have all their daily cable shows. We have Undisputed, The Herd, all of their normal sports shows that they run. Oh, we also have Fox News. They're on as well.
Yep.
So pretty much all of like Fox's cable productions are being done from South Beach this week, which is pretty crazy.
It's pretty incredible. We got a real quick tour ahead of our live hit, and obviously we have a lot more to go in and see. to learn about how they put all of this together. But from a tech standpoint, it's as big as the actual space that they've taken over. Apparently, that took quite a bit of doing, working with the city of Miami and getting this spot here. They don't normally let people build here. Apparently, there's some very strict volleyball players that had something to say about that. But everybody worked it out in the end. They got an absolutely great space here where everybody can see what's going on as they're doing their live productions. And of course, then on Sunday, they're going to transition over to the Hard Rock Stadium for the Super Bowl.
Yeah, they're basically taking everything over there, and it's going to be just as big, if not bigger, they said. So 2 blocks here, and then another maybe 2-3 blocks of trucks, stages, everything you can think of at the Hard Rock Stadium.
So
it's a lot of fun. A lot of coordination, I'm sure.
Right. Well, and taking a look here too, I just want to bring up to you and talk about this. You know, since you're down there, you're getting that behind-the-scenes look and how massive of a production this really is. For everybody who's watching this show and for our coverage here for Digital Trends, what can we expect this week? And I guess maybe looking at it from the tech side of things, which certainly we're going to be the best at analyzing. You know, with what kind of broadcast we're getting. There's some unique things this year. What can you tell us about that?
Right, Greg, as you just said, I mean, we're just getting started, getting our heads wrapped around what they have here. We're going to be visiting the Hard Rock Stadium tomorrow, actually, and getting a bunch of footage there. But basically what we're going to put together is a really great behind-the-scenes look at how they pull off such a massive broadcast. And again, they're doing it all week right up into the Super Bowl. And one of the big reasons that we're down here right now is because Fox is actually going to push, so let's separate the two.
Yeah.
They are producing everything in 1080p at 60 frames per second, which is, and in HDR, which is the real kicker. And by doing that, they're going to be able to upconvert that 1080p stream to 4K and deliver it out through their own apps, of course. So you could load up the Fox apps on your favorite streaming device or your smart TV, but also through DirecTV, Dish Network, Comcast, Xfinity, and a few other cable partners. And that's a big deal because, I mean, you remember when streaming sports finally came to the streaming platforms, that's when we started seeing some bigger adoption. And I think, you know, a lot of people, most of what they get, because not everybody has amazing bandwidth so that they can stream 4K all the time. So they really rely on these cable partners in order to deliver the content to their TV. Normally what you get is 720p SDR.
Yep.
And we've been there for quite a while. You know, when they made the transition to HD, that was a big deal, and it took a long time to get there. But now they're making the next big step and kind of leading the way. And I think that's the big story here, is that they're opening the doors. They're going to be delivering people the best picture quality they've ever seen from the biggest game of the year.
Yeah, it's really crazy. Everything this week, like you said, is 1080p, 60 frames, HDR. But I think the craziest thing is that all the shows that are being filmed that way, we're not actually seeing them that way. They're saving the HDR broadcast for the big game on Sunday. So it'll be a little eye-opening for everyone to actually finally see this technology and see what the difference is.
Yeah, I mean, let's be clear. I mean, most people out there are not able to, you know, aren't necessarily watching in 4K. So it's great that they're doing it in 1080p and delivering a really great experience for everyone. And then if you happen to have a 4K HDR capable TV, Greg, you'll be able to enjoy an upscaled to 4K or UHD along with HDR picture. And I mean, it's a completely different color space. The color green that you see is going to be unlike what you've seen on your TV before. It's going to be a really great representation of what's actually happening at the event. Greg,
I am really excited to see what it's going to look like, number one, but also to find out more about everything you two are going to find out during this week, because it's exciting to get to see behind the scenes. Not many people get to do this, and this is the first time, like you said, it's going to be broadcast in this way, and we're going to have all the details for everybody who follows along with Digital Trends. It's one of the cool things we get to do here. Riley, I know you have some other things too that you're going to be doing down there. Do you want to hit on what you're going to be doing this week?
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff planned this week. So Fox has been really great about, you know, inviting us in and giving us all this access. And so along with that access, we're going to be going to the NFL Media Day tonight. We're going to be getting some interviews with the players, asking them really how technology affects football and maybe just their lives in general. And then tomorrow we're going to Fox Media Day, where we're going to talk to the broadcasters. So like Howie Long, Terry Bradshaw, Tony Gonzalez, Rob Gronkowski, all those guys that you see at halftime and pregame. We're going to chat with them too. And then the thing I'm probably looking forward to, besides the big game, of course, is the Streamer Bowl. So Fortnite and Twitch are having the Streamer Bowl. So they're teaming up 16 players, NFL players with 16 streamers, and they're going to duke it out on Fortnite. So I'm ready to drop in there.
I should mention, sort of piggybacking on that, Riley, is that Verizon is providing the 5G network connectivity for a lot of the fan experiences and stuff that's happening here. We're going to be taking a look at what 5G brings to the overall experience. We're going to see if they're doing anything around augmented reality. The Streamer Bowl, obviously a big part of that as well. So, I mean, there's just so much to take a look at here, and I think that's going to be the challenge for us this week, is to kind of go through it all and present it in a way that really makes sense. But, you know, while I'm going to be working on these bigger packages that you'll see at digitaltrends.com and as well as our YouTube channel, Riley, you're going to be all over the place on the social tip.
Yep.
So all of our social channels, you're going to be able to get exclusive content, behind the scenes stuff that you're not going to see from anyone else.
That is true, yeah. So if you want to follow along with that on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, whatever the platform is, it's just at Digital Trends. Go there and, you know, we'll get some fun behind the scenes stuff, maybe ask some players some funny questions. It's going to be a really great time. I'm really excited for this week. Just all the technology and all the sports just coming together and having a lot of fun. And then one thing I do want to kind of address, because I heard you guys talk about it at the beginning of the show, Greg, is Kobe Bryant. We have a little memorial behind us. I don't know if you guys can see it too well, but it seems like that's honestly kind of overshadowing this first day of, you know, the Super Bowl coverage, and it's just, you know, sad, and our thoughts and condolences to the families involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely overshadowing everything today. I think we all realize, you know, just what a huge thing that is, what a horrible tragedy that was. But yeah, it's of course it makes sense that they would be. That would have a great impact, you know, down there, especially with other fellow athletes and everything else that goes along with it. So, agree. Thoughts and condolences to his family and everybody involved in that. Going from that, though, I want to say thank you to the both of you for joining us here to talk about this. There is so much that I am looking forward to seeing from you. And also, just one note, Riley and Gronk together sounds like a very dangerous combination. But I want to see the video of that. So
Sounds fun.
So that's all going to be happening this week. So Caleb Dennison, Riley Wynn, thank you so much for your coverage, of course, down there with Rich Shipley as well, covering the Super Bowl for us. Thanks, guys. All right, so that's going to be all this week. So something that you can look forward to. Both of them are going to be bringing us all that great reporting. So talking to athletes, seeing behind the scenes of what's going on with the tech. It's going to be so much fun. And that's part of what we get to bring you here with Digital Trends. This is exclusive, everybody, so you want to stay tuned for that all week long. All right, we've got more, though, coming up. We've got more to talk about. We've got more tech we're going to cover. We've got Drew Prindle coming in here in just a little bit with another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet. So that's going to be part of our coverage. We also have an interview coming up, though. We have Shama Hyder, the CMO of OneDine, to talk about their platform and how it's going to basically improve the dining experience by bringing multiple apps to your fingertips. What does that mean? We'll talk about that here in a minute. We're broadcasting live. Drop in your comments, your questions, whatever you want to bring up. We'll be back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. This is Digital Trends Live. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button. That way you get the notifications when we do go live, and you can join in the conversations that we get to have and the great discussions we get to have with tech entrepreneurs and leaders in different industries. And right now we're going to be talking about the restaurant industry, experiences, how tech is changing that, and what in particular they are doing with that. So to do so, we have Shama Hyder, who's the CMO of OneDine. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. This is an exciting topic.
Yes, I love finding out about how tech is changing things. And in particular, I mean, dining. Tech has really changed a lot in the way that we engage and order food and the experiences that we get to have. And I know you're at the forefront of some of that too. And I want to give everybody an idea of what it is that OneDine is doing. Can you give us kind of the run through of it?
Absolutely. I'm so excited because, the restaurant space is in dire need of innovation, especially within the US. So if you've traveled outside the US, you see that tableside ordering is quite common. Being able to pay your check with your mobile phone is a lot more common. In the US, I feel like we've been much slower to catch up. And so OneDine aims to fix all of that. We're really revolutionizing, I don't say that lightly, the restaurant tech space, which is so light years behind in so many ways, to improve the overall experience. So the guest experience, because we've all been there, right? You sat down and you waited for the server to come with your check so you can leave, and you're just hanging out waiting for that to happen. And so we're really looking to solve these problems across the board, the guest issues, amplifying the guest experience, making sure that it's easy for servers and management to get great real-time data, and to supercharge their point of sale system so it allows them to do all these amazing things like tableside ordering, and of course be compliant. So I don't know if you knew this or if many of our viewers know this, but the restaurant industry loses $2 billion to fraudulent chargebacks every year. I mean, that's astounding. So OneDine is really seeking to solve a lot of these challenges in a very competitive space, because of course, as we know, the restaurant space is incredibly competitive, and operators constantly need, right, something that helps them get that edge, better guest experience. And of course, all this while labor costs are skyrocketing, and and so this solution really is amazing for restaurant operators and brands across the board to be able to implement and take their restaurant to the next level.
And take a look at the video there. I mean, I guess to go back to something you just said, $2 billion. That is a crazy amount. I had no idea it was that big of an issue. And I, this would definitely be a way to help actually, resolve some of that. So looking at OneDine in itself, just to give everybody just a little bit more overview of it. So it sounds like it's kind of a universal interface that's, you've got the restaurant side, but you also have the customer side, and it kind of bridges that gap between the two. Is that a right way to say that?
Great way to say it. Yes, it's really a 360-degree solution, because if you think about it, when you go into a restaurant and you're a guest, you have one perspective, right? But if you ever worked at a restaurant, it's a very different perspective when you're trying to manage these tables and split checks and get payments and make sure that you're doing all of this. And then, of course, from management's perspective, making sure that the whole operation is running smoothly, the guests have the best experience, your servers, right, are equipped and are able to make the best tips they can and provide the best guest experience. So all of these things really play together. And today is a very special day for us, because we just announced our closing of our Series A for $5 million. Most of our investment comes from restaurant insiders, which I'm really proud of, because that means this is created by folks who understand the industry really, really well. I think a lot of times what happens is folks who have a cool idea from the outside invent something, but they don't really understand the pain point of restaurant operators. So I love that our leadership team has just decades and decades of experience working within the restaurant industry.
Well, congratulations on that. That is fantastic. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. And also, that, to your point, that is a great point when it's talking about, people who are invested in the restaurant industry, who understand it, because that is a tough industry and it's very complicated. And I think a lot of people just overlook the fact of how complicated it is. So to understand it from the ground up, that's a huge thing. Looking at with this investment, and you mentioned innovation in the restaurant industry and how it needs to happen. What's something that you're most excited about bringing to the table now that you have the abilities to do this?
What I'm really excited about is scaling this out across to all the brands that need it, big and small, because this is by far the most cost-effective solution in the marketplace to date, right? A lot of solutions out there require you to change a lot of hardware, a lot of software. It can get very expensive very quickly. And OneDine really is the most cost-effective solution. So I'm thrilled about the fact that the big enterprise brands can use it, the mom and pops can use it, and everyone can provide that great guest experience they really want, that they're aiming for, right? And they're able to keep their labor costs down, and they're just making their entire operation so much more efficient. And that is something that really does excite me, both from a guest going into restaurants and also knowing that we're helping these businesses across the board.
Right? Yeah, I mean, cutting down on that loss, on the $2 billion, on everything else that you just mentioned. So that sounds like a really great way to interface. Looking at the restaurant industry in general with technology and innovation that's now finally coming to it, as you said, it kind of seems like it's been needing it for a while. Where do you see it in like 5 years? How do you see the dining experience? What do you see that being like in 5 years?
I think it's going to be so completely transformed because it's going to be guest driven. Think about how mobile phones, right? All our smartphones have changed absolutely how we do business, what we expect. And so I think that bar is going to get so much higher where restaurants really have to give. Right now, it's like, almost an additional nice to. It's kind of cool when we do it. But I think that expectation bar is going to be this is the minimum, right? We're going to expect as consumers a really seamless experience, and restaurants are going to have to provide that. So I do think it's going to get more competitive, not just in terms of whose food is the best, which has always been right a barometer, but really who gives me the best experience. Where can I get in and out efficiently? Where do I get the best dining experience, whether that's fast casual or fine dining? And I think that's where restaurant innovation is really headed. So I think we're going to see in the next 5 years a lot of this driven by consumer demand.
Well, when it coming back to OneDine and just where you're at right now, can you give everybody just a little bit of an overview of where it is at, what you expect here, and where people can go find more information about it?
Absolutely. So, of course, you can go to onedine.com. That's where we're going to be posting all our exciting announcements. We're rolling out with enterprise brands right now. We're piloting. We expect a lot more in Q2. So if you're a guest, you're going to start to see OneDine a lot more at your restaurants. If you haven't, ask the restaurant why you don't have it, because there's really no more excuses. And, I think we're very excited, and you'll definitely start seeing us and our brand across the states.
Well, Shema, thank you so much for joining us here to talk about this and just walk through all this exciting things that you have going, and really appreciate you being here on Digital Trends Live.
Thanks so much for having me, guys.
All right, so always interesting learning about how tech and innovation is happening in different industries, because that's something that we see so much. Every industry is getting revolutionized in some way because of technology, and that's talking about the restaurant side of things, and very excited for that. So changing experiences for both sides of the coin. All right, continuing on here with Digital Trends Live. Again, we are broadcasting live. We can take your comments as we go through the show, and we do appreciate everybody who is leaving in your comments there. Coming up next, we've got Drew Prindle for another edition of Awesome Tech You Can't Buy Yet. Can't buy it right now, but maybe soon. So we've always got some really cool things to talk about with that. We've also got more on the way, more news, more everything. Stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Welcome back to Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. We broadcast live here every weekday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern. I just want to make sure you're aware of that in case you weren't. But right now, it is time for some awesome tech you can't buy yet. I'm Greg Nibbler here with Drew Prindle. Hello, Drew.
How's it going?
Doing well. Always love this segment. It's our weekly segment here on Digital Trends every Monday where we talk about some of these strange things that you find on the internet. Strange, awesome, maybe both.
It's really a mix of everything. It's really just whatever catches my eye.
Yeah, and these are all crowd-funded campaigns, right?
Yeah. So I spend a ridiculous amount of time on Kickstarter and Indiegogo because that's where all of the innovative ideas are coming from, really.
Well, let's walk through some of these and talk about some of these ones that you have discovered that you think are the most awesome tech for the week.
These are the hot ones that just landed on these platforms.
Okay, so going through here, taking a look at what do we have first? Which one did you want to bring up here first?
Let's talk about the shower head.
Talking about the shower head. All right, innovative shower heads. That is.
So, if you probably heard about earlier versions of this, it's called the Nebula shower head. It's the one that like Tim Cook invested a bunch of money in or whatever, and everybody was gushing over.
Yeah, they had tested it out. I did hear about this. They tested it out in like a gym or something that Tim Cook went to, and then
he
somehow he
just fell
waited
in love with
outside the shower room and questioned people about it.
Yeah,
like that's actually how he was doing it. So, but anyway, Tim Cook was a fan.
Yeah, so this is the third generation of that thing. They've done 2 previous Kickstarter campaigns for this, and in this third iteration, they've done it in partnership with Moen, who has like all kinds of like faucet, shower, manufacturing shops. They know how to make these things and produce them at scale. This is the new and improved version of this, and I think in past versions. Okay, so first, let me back up. What this thing does is instead of spraying water out like a normal shower does, it kind of like atomizes it and makes the water particles that spray out like way, way smaller. So it still gets you wet and makes it apparently feel like you're under a normal shower, but it's using like 65% less water or something like that. So
all right,
crazy efficient compared to most traditional showers. And but the problem was with some of the earlier generations was that when you get those little tiny holes, the little nozzles, they would clog up way too easy.
Oh, yeah.
Because like anybody who had hard water, you get little calcium deposits or whatever in there, and then they'd kind of stop working, and they were just kind of a pain. But apparently they have mitigated those issues in this latest generation, and it's everything that they promised it to be.
A high-tech shower head. All right. Well, so take a look here at this too. So starting at $160 is where they're coming out. But if you're saving that much on water, I guess maybe it would work out.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of those things like you definitely don't need it. But you probably want it. I don't know. It's
Hey, I like seeing innovation in anything. Do they have a Bluetooth speaker in it though?
Yeah, that's the thing. I think that's the next generation, man.
Yeah,
they
I gotta have a speaker.
Was it Kohler who did that?
Somebody did, yeah. And then once I heard that, I'm like, I want
shower tech, man, is heating up. This is the new autonomous cars. This is super competitive.
Same level. So, all right, taking a look at shower tech. So, again, awesome tech you can't buy yet. Walking through it. So that was the Nebula by Moen. Let's go to the next one. This LiDAR gesture controller.
Yeah, this is a weird one. So this little thing, it's a little cube that sits on, wherever you want to set it down, and then it uses LiDAR, which is basically laser radar. It's the same technology that you have in like autonomous cars and allows them to like map the world around them and see through snow and all of that stuff. But instead of helping a car drive, what this thing does is it looks for gestures in midair. So you set it on like your coffee table in front of you, and then you can move it around. It'll send those gestures to your TV, and then or whatever screen you want really, and then translate them into motion controls.
This is how we get into Minority Report.
Exactly. So like, regardless of if your TV is smart or not, apparently you can load up like certain software or whatever and get this thing to work with it.
I want that.
So yeah,
that's awesome.
You can control anything with it. You can play Fruit Ninja on your TV.
Yeah, well, don't tell anybody I'd do that, but yeah, that's
you
would.
What
I would do. Yeah, all right, I 100% would. I mean, this is awesome. Why has nobody done this before?
I feel like people have done it, but with other technologies.
It does kind of feel like a Kinect.
Yeah.
Remember the old Xbox?
Exactly,
Kinect?
but that was all visually based, so it probably took like quite a bit more like processing power, and it was quite a bit bigger than this. But the cool thing about this is they've shrunk down the LiDAR into such a tiny little nugget. And because it took previous generations, even just a couple years ago, LiDAR was a big old brick, and it was you would see it on autonomous cars, and they'd have these big old arrays sticking out of the rooftop and stuff. It's just impressive to me that they've shrunken it down to something so small and convenient.
I mean, the one problem I would have is that I use my hands a lot when I'm talking, so I would need to control that a bit. Otherwise, I'd be turning everything off constantly. But I think it'd all work out fine.
Yeah.
So again, that's what is it called? Glamos?
Glamos.
Glamos.
Weird
All right.
name, but
Interesting
that's
name.
par for the course here.
But that one is out now. I actually want to know about that one just as far as when I can buy that. So I'm gonna see if I can find this here and take a look. But that's Glamos, the LiDAR gesture controller.
Yes.
I might invest in that one. I think I kind of want to get on that one. All right, going through to the next one though, we've got what is this?
This is the,
I don't even want to know if I want to say this because it might be written wrong on my document that
this
I'm
is
looking at here.
what I hastily wrote to describe to you.
Yes.
Just read it out. Read it out.
Porphy, video blackhead sucker.
Yeah,
that
it's
is what I
pretty-
just read
it's
out
pretty
loud.
much
so
what it is.
That
It's,
is Drew's fault if I said that wrong.
I'm sure you would
What?
have seen these like infomercials or whatever, these weird devices that are basically vacuums for blackheads that you can just put on your face and they'll suck out
Yeah.
all the gunk out of your skin and your pores.
Yep.
This is that, but taken to a completely disgusting new level.
This is uncomfortable even just watching
So
this video.
the difference between this
What is
and,
that creep doing? Sorry. I mean,
So what it is it's a zit sucker that has a camera embedded inside of it.
Oh.
And it will live stream it to your phone in real time so you can see. I mean, I'm sure it helps with like aim so
Right.
you know where you're going, but also they think this
so
is going to be
graphic.
like a social thing. They're like, "Oh, live stream it to like social media,
oh,
share it
gross.
with your friends."
No.
I mean,
No.
it's terrible, right?
This is
But
awful. Why are they? Why is this happening right now?
Because there's a market for it. I guarantee you that, I mean, it's already met its goal on Kickstarter.
Oh, that is not a market I want to be a part of.
Think about how popular all of those like popping channels
Are you
on
kidding me?
YouTube are.
I'm gonna start throwing up just thinking about
This
those
is going to
videos. I hate
spawn
those videos.
entire new YouTube channels.
That I do not want to be a part of. Whatever that is, please get me a blocker for that immediately.
man.
To erase that from my brain and make sure that I never see that again. I get there's tech behind it. Cool.
I don't know if we call this awesome tech.
I don't know if this is awesome tech. Drew.
Appalling tech you can't buy yet.
This might be a different category.
Yeah, it was just so
Tech to gross you out on a Monday.
I just knew you were going to react so strongly
Oh,
to it,
that's
so
so
I had
strongly.
to bring it up this
I
week.
hate those videos.
For only $56, you can gross out
Oh,
everybody
so
on.
gross, dude. Why was that guy peeking in the bathroom too? Why was he sneaking around the door like
Because
watching
this
it?
is not something you do with an audience. I mean, at least previous to now. Now you can do it with an internet audience, I guess. But like, yeah, it's.
Oh, God. All right. I don't know what else to say on this. So there it is. There's your porphyry blackhead vacuum, the tech you didn't know that you
The
wanted.
zit sucker.
Oh, so gross. All right. Anyway, congrats, guys. That was a good job. Congrats on the tech behind that. I'm sure, me calling him a creep is going to remove any sponsorship opportunities. But nonetheless, that's what it is. And I understand there's a lot of people that would be into that. Drew, thank you for what you've done here today. It's always a great segment. We've got articles at Digital Trends all about this.
Yes.
All about
Every week we publish,
awesome
I think
tech.
there's like 5 of them. I'll make 5 picks and
Yeah.
you can check them out. The article's live on the site right now.
All right. Well, let's regroup for a minute after what we've all just gone through because we've got more to talk about. There's more tech coming up. There's more discussions. Actually, we've got a guest who's going to be. I've just got to regroup for a second. We've got a guest who's going to be joining us here in studio in just a minute to talk about some more tech, more interesting things that we've got going on here at Digital Trends Live. So Isaac Lee Morris, who's going to be here, and thank you everybody for joining us. We are live. You can share the show. Let everybody know about it. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. Thank you for joining us wherever you're watching. We do appreciate you being a part of the show. We are live. We can take your comments and questions as we go through. And one of the fun things we get to do is have conversations with tech entrepreneurs and innovators. We're going to do that right now. We've got Isaac Lee Morris, who is the founder and CEO of Threadbare and Chief Product Officer of Thesis. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, excited to talk about tech and in particular the fashion industry and what you're working in. I want to give everybody an overview. Can you explain what Threadbare is?
Yes, so Threadbare, it's a personal styling assistant powered by the crowd. So you can imagine if you had a professional, style consultant who comes to your house every evening, 7 p.m., looks at all your clothes and says, "Okay, Greg, tomorrow it's going to be
throw it all out.
It's going to be 60. Well, no, don't throw it all out.
Okay.
That's the best part, right? Like tomorrow it's going to be 60 degrees. So here's an outfit option if you want to go business casual. If you want to mix it up a little bit and go urban, here's what you can do. So actually, literally giving you outfit options from your own wardrobe every single day. But instead of a single person, it's actually powered by an entire community. And because we're enabling this using technology, we can do it at a really accessible price point. So instead of paying $120 an hour, you're paying $20 a month.
Wow, that is fascinating. So I want to walk through how that actually works.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
You've got the app. I assume it's an app that you download.
Yes.
Scan in all your clothes, or
Well,
what's that process like?
That's interesting. So there's kind of, obviously fashion is a huge industry and a lot of companies are kind of trying to tackle this problem. And where you find a lot of companies focusing is on purchasing, right? And the reason why they do that is because that's easier, right? Like inventory is already cataloged, it's digital, all that stuff. It's a lot harder to help people with what they already own. Most people who have there's kind of a tension there. If you have the problem of having enough clothing where you need help, you probably don't have the time to scan it all.
Right.
So we take care of that. We actually, we have one of our delivery partners pick up your clothing. We take it to our fulfillment center and we digitally catalog all of it and bring it back to you the next day.
So you have a digital catalog, digital closet basically of all your clothes.
That's exactly right.
Very cool. So then once that happens, then, I guess going back to what you were saying for that experience before, like say, I want something business casual.
Yes.
So you post that up somewhere and it's crowdsourced?
Yeah, basically what happens is there's two sides of the experience. One is as the subscriber, like, hey, I want outfit recommendations every day. And the other side, we structure it as a game. So basically you've got a crowd of thousands, millions of people who are competing with the requests that come from your wardrobe. So they're putting together outfits and then the community is voting like, oh, I like that one, or that one, yeah, that one's appropriate for 70-degree rainy weather. And so as we get those responses, we curate them by having the crowd vote on them, and then we send back the top 3 to you every day.
So it's almost like gamifying it in a way.
Yes, that's exactly what's happening.
That is genius. That's brilliant. Well, all right. Looking from there, and I want to get back to talk about the app more as well, but just you in general being involved in fashion and technology, like where's the industry at? What are some of the trends that you're seeing?
So, I mean, it really is those two. When you think about historically, fashion and technology they're interesting because they're one of the most potent sources of kind of anthropology, right? When you think about the things that are equally driving culture and driven by culture, like fashion and technology are these huge sources of our cultural norms and our language and expression, all that stuff. So it's really interesting following those two things as they influence each other. Right now what we're seeing is technology has always played a role in fashion, but it's moving up the pipeline. So it used to really be focused at the point of sale. Now what we're seeing is you have companies like GeoStyle, which they actually just go around and they kind of crawl all the imagery, publicly available imagery, and then they identify what they think are going to be future fashion trends based on that. And that actually informs all the way up at the top end what gets manufactured in the coming seasons.
So it's analyzing all that data and saying, we predict that, this color, this style is going to be in. And then companies are basing their purchasing on that.
Not only their purchasing, but their design, right?
Wow.
So the actual fashion brands are basing the clothing that they will produce and the patterns that they'll use and the colors that they'll focus on.
How do you feel about that from that combination of having tech lead what the creativity is versus I know like designers, like I think it's their creativity that's driving this. What's that balance been like? What's the response like?
I think it's really interesting. I think there's something. We all know that fashion has kind of a cyclical aspect to it, but I think that cycle kind of it has the risk of getting stale if we lean too heavily on technology, right? Because right now, technology is really it's best tuned for telling us what we've already done and making predictions based on that. But when you're talking about doing something completely new, people are a lot better at that. And so that's actually one of the things, that actually is one of the kind of part of the ethos that inspired Threadbare is like real people driving what the trends are, real, actual, normal people driving what fashion should be.
That combination of the two of them.
Yeah.
Well, I think just looking at it kind of another angle too, I know with something like that, if you're using the clothes that you already have, certainly that would be from a sustainability aspect.
Yes.
A great way
absolutely.
to continue with that. Is that a trend that we're seeing with fashion?
Absolutely. That's categorically the #1 trend in fashion right now. The #1 issue. Consumers are starting to really care about it, which means that brands have to as well.
Right.
And so you're seeing huge investments in the resale market. You're seeing huge investments in the rental market directly from brands. Like Burbank actually has partnered on the resale side of things with the RealReal. And so you're seeing that happen. What's interesting about that is we're still kind of finding out what the long-term effects of these new markets are. So there's an interesting study by Business of Fashion where what they found is people weren't actually purchasing less clothes by utilizing the rental and resale markets. It's just kind of an additional layer. So
gotcha.
Yeah, it's interesting watching how those things are playing together and just how we can continue to move forward. And like you said, using the clothes that you have is ultimately going to be the best route sustainably.
Right. Yeah, and figuring out what else you can do with them. Yeah. I love this idea of a crowdsourced partition for that. So walking through for the app for everybody at home, who wants to utilize Threadbare, you mentioned that people will. Your crew will come and scan your clothes. Now, is that anywhere or?
So we have a delivery partner who we basically bring you a bunch of bags and boxes for, if you have stuff that needs to be hung up, that goes in a box. If you have stuff that can go in a bag, pack it in there. And then we take it to our own fulfillment center, and that's where all the photography happens. And then we bring it back to your, usually 24-hour turnaround, bring it back to your house.
That's really cool. Well, let's talk about the subscription side of it. Now, you said it was
$20 a month.
$20 a month. That is really inexpensive.
Yep, 3 outfits a day, 7 days a week, $20 a month. That's it.
Wow, that's great. Looking forward, going forward for this year, what can we expect from Threadbare? Are there some exciting things on the horizon that you can mention?
I think the most important thing that we're focusing on right now that's going to be really exciting is expanding the kind of play aspect of it, right? So it's really easy to think about fashion as, and the approach that a lot of apps that are currently out there like Wishy take is it's really utilitarian. Like, here's the task, so do the task of building an outfit. But actually the things that inspire like cool new trends and cool new looks, they're much more playful. So we're kind of exploring how that manifests in the UI. It'll be fun.
What inspires you the most when it comes to fashion? Where do you get your inspiration?
That's a good question. I like to think about it as like kind of a costuming thing. So when I see things that are distinctive, I like to just like watch people on the street. And if I see a look that's very different, then I'll kind of try and like deconstruct that and figure out how I can, do it with my own clothes. So
interesting.
Yeah,
well,
pretty organic.
I definitely will be signing up for that because I need some help when it comes to that. I mean, not really, but yeah, sure I do. Yeah, I do. So this is great. Well, for everybody out there who wants to utilize it, I mean, I'm assuming just go to the App Store and download Threadbare. What's the best
right
place?
now we are, because we have that kind of regional aspect, we're currently in a closed beta.
Okay.
And so people can go to www.threadbare.fashion to sign up for that beta. And as our ability to, kind of scale up and offer and onboard more people, we'll be bringing more people to sign up.
Great. Well, congratulations on this so far. This is a very unique idea, and it's always fun having these kinds of conversations. Really appreciate you being here on the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it a lot.
And thanks to everybody who's watching too. This is part of the fun of Digital Trends Live. We're live here every day. We get to talk to entrepreneurs and innovators like Isaac Lee, and also we bring you some news, and that's what we're going to have next. We've got some news topics I'm going to bring you up to date on, and then we're also going to be talking to the reporter from the New York Times who broke the article on Clearview AI, which is an AI system, a software that police departments are using across the country to utilize facial recognition. Is that good, or is it kind of creepy and bad? We're probably a little bit of both. So we're going to be talking about that coming up too. So stick around. Back here in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thanks for joining us wherever you are. We do appreciate it. Joining the conversations that we get to have here live on the show, and that is part of the fun of what we do. We've got some great interviews coming up, but first off, we're going to talk about some news. Got some news to bring you up to date on, and this is actually some old news, but it's a very important date. So on January 27th, 2010 was the day that Apple, and Tim Cook in particular, unveiled the very first iPad. So it was 10 years ago. You kind of think about the iPad as just something that's been around for forever, but it has not. So 10 years ago, January 27th, during a presentation, Tim Cook brought it out, showcased the new product, and at the time, there was nothing else really like this. And one of the things that they actually talked about was just how it was bridging that gap between a phone, the iPhone, clearly successful, but not out really that long before that. The computer, the laptop, and marrying the two together. So at 0.5 inches thick and weighing just 1.5 pounds, the video of him actually releasing that was pretty incredible because it's him talking about it and showcasing those things that I'm bringing up. But that is part of the story of the iPad. So 10 years from now, where will it be? That's going to be an interesting conversation to have as well. But just to give you an idea for the original one, based on the video that he showcased with that, it came out in April. It ended up coming out in April. It started off at $499, and there was a 16 gigabyte model, a 32 gig model, and then a Wi-Fi plus 3G model. That's where we were at. We were at 3G 10 years ago. 4G wasn't even big enough of a thing to make it into the iPad, so that also gives a little bit of a sign of the times on technology. Where are we going to be when the 5G iPad rolls out, which there will be one, and that's going to be something else that we can talk about. But again, looking back on that, Tim Cook making that announcement 10 years ago, and where will it be 10 years from now? Well, we'll have to find out, but just want to make a note of this day in tech history right there. All right, continue on. Let's talk about some more trending topics, shall we? This is definitely a trending topic, and it's not a fun one, but it's one that is very important to discuss, and it has to do with the coronavirus, which is the virus that is coming out of China, Wuhan, and how that is spreading. So this is something that everybody in the world is taking a look at right now. And I want to take a look and take a second here to talk about one of the ways that we are trying to figure out how to keep track of this, and this is something that's a really great use of technology. So there's a Maryland-based Center for Systems Science and Engineering, and they created an online tool that brings data from a bunch of different organizations and combines it together to give a really good visual and interpretive way to take a look at where this disease is spreading, where the virus is spreading. And so you have the World Health Organization, you have Centers for Disease Control and Prevention in China, the US, Europe, everybody's has all of their data on it. This combines all of them. And as you take a look at what they've got there, it showcases where the outbreaks are. You can see there's smaller outbreaks, there's bigger outbreaks. There's certainly ways that you can actually, take a look at what it's looking like worldwide. And they've got this from across the entire world. You can see there the total confirmed cases. You can see where the cases are showing up by continent, by region. You can zoom in on them. It's actually a pretty cool use of tech during something that really could utilize this kind of thing. So again, it's starting out in China. This is where the original virus showed up. They've actually pretty much shut off the city of Wuhan, which is a very big city. But before they did that, it's estimated that I believe about 9 million people had left the city and possibly come back during that time because there's a 14-day period where you could be contagious. That's huge. So it's really important to know where the infections are happening, where you see people contracting the virus to understand and track where it's going. But 14-day lag time makes it difficult. So tech really does need to step in and help. And right now there's been a few cases in the United States. I believe there's one or two that are showing up in Europe. I expect that's going to be more. So getting that data in there and gleaning that is really important. And that's kind of a sign of the times of what tech can do for us when it comes to the medical industry, to health technology. How can we keep track of these things? We've talked about it here on the show before. There's a lot of companies that have been trying to do this, trying to understand and even predict viral outbreaks. And I don't think you can always predict something like this, but if you can get that data as quick as possible to the people that can really use it to understand from an infrastructure standpoint, where we need to wall off, where we need to be careful, where people are coming in from, so that they're not carrying this, and also to help the people that are most affected. If you can see a community where it starts to expand, that's something that's very important too. So again, that's a really interesting look at the data. We've got an article up about this right now at digitaltrends.com that you can go to, and then we also have links to this actual outbreak. It's public, so you can take a look at the map and what's going on. Fascinating stuff. Check it out at digitaltrends.com. All right, final topic that we're going to bring up here before we go to a break, and we have Kashmir Hill from the New York Times who's going to be joining us. This is just kind of a cool use of technology and something that we probably wouldn't have thought about. What does an ancient Egyptian priest sound like? Well, we kind of have an idea now. So here's where we're at. This is actually a 3D scan that was done on a priest named Nesyamun. There we go. I'm not going to try to pronounce that again. Nesyamun. There we go. Nesyamun. We'll go with that one. Anyway, regardless of that, this was from the 11th century BC, is where we estimate. So this is a mummy that was found. This was his mummy, this ancient Egyptian priest. And we know enough about them that this was somebody who would have sung, who would have given sermons, a very important person when it comes to ancient Egyptian culture. And what they've done is they've been able to take 3D scans of the trachea and the throat and the larynx of this priest, and they put it all together and they 3D printed it. And then they kind of ran it through a machine where they push air through it. And what that did is give you a slight approximation of what this person would have sounded like. Now, we're not going to get a voice out of this. You're not going to hear their voice talking because we don't really know that side of it yet. But we did get the sound that was probably being made. And I know that we have that audio. If we can roll the sound just so you can get an idea of what it is. Whenever that's airing. So you can hear the sound. So that's the sound of an ancient mummy, a 3,000-year-old mummy that we just had right there. So that's one of the sounds that's been coming through there, and that's just the sound of the voice coming through that. Yeah, you're not going to get the sermon. You're not going to get a bunch of speeches going on from that, but it is actually a really fascinating use of technology, because once we do this and once they figure it out, what they're saying is this is going to give us a really unique insight into oral history and just what people sounded like. And taking it from there, can we do this again? Can we do this with other historical figures and really understanding how the body works? There's just a lot to figure out from it, but the bottom line is it's a mummy making a noise. And so that's pretty cool. So you can check more about that at digitaltrends.com. All right, let's do this. We are going to go to a break because we've got a very important interview here coming up. Last week, you probably saw or heard about this company called Clearview AI. Well, there's a New York Times article that came out and this was from Kashmir Hill, who's a tech reporter from New York for the New York Times, who put out this article talking about this company that's being widely used by police departments. And what they're doing is they're taking photos offline of everyone. They're scraping them off of Twitter, off of Facebook, off of wherever they can get them. And they've compiled all of this into a software that police departments are using to where they can identify people with facial recognition software. And we're going to kind of walk into a little bit of what the history of this is, a little bit of the story. If you have questions, drop those in on whatever platform you're watching. We're going to discuss this. It's a very important interview. We're really excited to have her on the show, so stick around. Back in a minute with more Digital Trends Live. Hello, this is Digital Trends Live. I'm Greg Nibbler, and thank you for joining wherever you are. Hit that subscribe button, share the show, and of course, get the notifications when we do go live. And we like to talk about cutting-edge technology and how it is being utilized. And certainly, there's not much that's talked about more than the use of facial recognition software and whether or not it should or should not be used, how it's being applied, and what's actually happening with it. And we've got something that we're going to talk about right now. This is a fantastic article from the New York Times about a company called Clearview AI, and we have that author right here with us. We have Kashmir Hill to talk about this. Thank you so much for joining us here on the show.
My pleasure.
So this is just a really eye-opening article that you have, and I want to give everybody just kind of an overview of what it is that you uncovered with this and how that actually happened. How did you get turned on to this in the beginning?
Well, I heard about it from some public records researchers who were FOIAing police departments around the country, asking how they were using facial recognition. And most of the documents coming back had the usual vendors who just create better algorithms for searching, mugshots and driver's license photos. But there was this one company called Clearview that said it was scraping the web, and it just sounded different from anything else they came across. And so they shot it over to me, and I've been covering privacy for 10 years, and I knew that this was completely different and very transgressive, and so I started looking into it. And I was skeptical at first, but basically everything turned out to be true.
So what this company is doing, and just to paraphrase, like they were going online, scraping photos off of Twitter, off of anywhere they can get them, and then compiling this all into a giant database. Is that right?
Yeah, so they scraped 3 billion photos from the web, from social media sites, employment sites, educational sites, and had this algorithm that worked incredibly well, according to the police officers I talked to who were using the app. And they had just been kind of quietly selling and making this app available to law enforcement, offering these 30-day free trials to anybody who had, a police email address. And it was just spreading like wildfire through law enforcement. But no one had ever, I talked to face recognition experts. They never heard of the company. This is all happening kind of in the shadows. And it was very shocking when it, came to light.
Right. That's all those worst case scenarios that we talk about when we say, well, it feels like that anyway. When it comes to facial recognition software and just our pictures online, what are they going to be used for? And this is a company that's just taking all that data, compiling it, selling it to police departments. Nobody really knew about it. What do they, I guess, looking at it, from compiling all this stuff, is there anything illegal about what they've done?
I kept calling legal experts, expecting someone to tell me, yeah, they're totally breaking some law, and none did. There was a recent federal court opinion that said scraping is probably legal, so the actual scraping of public information is okay. And we don't really have privacy rights over our faces, except in their state laws in Texas and Illinois that give people rights around their biometric information, but they have exceptions for law enforcement use. So it wasn't clear that those laws applied. So it seems like because we don't have like a big federal privacy law, that it's legal what they're doing.
Right, and that's part of the thing too. Like the software is advancing so fast. These regulations for this, artificial intelligence, all these different use cases, we don't really know what it can or can't do, what it should or shouldn't be used for. And so you get something like this. Well, since you've put this article out, and I encourage everybody to go read this because it's just so eye-opening. What's the response been from law enforcement and some of these agencies that have been using this software?
So the response, there's been a lot of response in the last week. I know that Twitter sent the company a cease and desist letter saying stop scraping our data. Senators have asked questions. The Attorney General of New Jersey banned the use of the app in the state and is calling for an investigation. And there's just been a lot of calls for better privacy laws and looking into this particular company. But I will say I did talk to a lot of officers, and they said it's just an incredible tool and very useful for solving crime. So it's a real decision point for us in terms of how we want to use this technology moving forward.
Yeah, that's true. There is the other side to it where it's just like everything else. There's some good and there's some bad. I guess looking at it from that standpoint, what are they saying that they've been able, what are the good positive points from the law enforcement perspective of using this?
I mean, the craziest story I heard was a unit, a child exploitation unit. They had a video of a child being abused. There was an adult who appeared briefly in the background of the video. They ran his face through traditional databases, came up with nothing, ran his face through the Clearview tool, found him in the reflection of a mirror in a gym selfie of somebody else's photo. And so they went to the gym to ask who this guy was, and eventually they were able to identify him. I mean, it's
Wow.
just, it is crazy how well this works. I met the founder of the company. He ran the app on me, pulled up photos of me I didn't know were online. I covered my face at one point like this, and he took a photo, and it still pulled up 7 photos of me. So the technology itself just works quite well.
That is so unnerving, just to know that it's that far advanced. I mean, that's certainly a good use case. Obviously, you want to catch that guy, but the fact that it's pulling somebody from a reflection in a mirror of a selfie of someone else, that's incredible just to know that it's at this point. Well, for Clearview, for that company, where they're at, what's some of the response been, I guess, from that end after this came out, and how are they saying, positioning themselves when it comes to the software?
The company has said, we don't plan to ever make this tool available to the public. This isn't a law enforcement tool. We're using this to protect communities, to protect children. And what's been really interesting to see is that they have really fought back against negative stories in the press. So, they had said they'd worked with the NYPD, and NYPD said, we don't have an official relationship with this company. And the company came forward to the New York Post and said, oh, actually, there's 36 NYPD officers that have accounts. The last search was Thursday. They've done thousands of searches. You don't usually see government contractors, revealing that kind of information. So they are they are willing to fight to stay alive.
Yeah, it is an interesting company, and I know just from reading your article too, the founder seems like an interesting character in his own right. When it comes to kind of a tech entrepreneur. Has he made any public statements since this came out?
Well, it's interesting. When I first started looking into the company, there was just nothing about him beyond kind of old articles that were maybe not the best articles to have in your Google footprint. But since the article came out, he released a whole kind of profile online. He filled out his website. But I think he's talking to the press. But I don't think he's made any kind of public appearances or statements yet. I do know that he is supposed to be meeting with Senator Ron Wyden's office in the near future in D.C. And I'm sure people are just going to have a lot of questions for him because of this really powerful and groundbreaking tool that he's built.
Right, and I mean, and who else can go out and do this? If this is public info, it seems like somebody else could probably create something along these lines too. So that'll be fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, Google said they could do this 10 years ago, but that it was the one technology they were holding back because it could be used in a very bad way. And so part of what is revolutionary about Clearview is that they just decided to cross that line, to break this taboo, and I'm sure there will be copycats.
For you personally, after doing this and finding out so much information about is what is going on with it, is there anything that you've changed with your online habits or digital persona online?
I mean, what can you do? It's too late. There's so many photos of us out there already. And this isn't just something where you can go and delete your own photos if anyone else has posted photos of you. I mean, I just don't think there's any going back from this unless there's some kind of law that's passed that makes this particular tool illegal.
Wow, it's fascinating and it's eye-opening, and I really do want to see what happens now with this Ron Wyden interview and just everything that's going to unfold with this. At least people are aware of it, and thank you for getting this out there, for making this article and making us all aware that this is actually going on. Everything that we've been thinking maybe somebody could do that. Well, it's happening. They're doing it. So,
they're doing it.
Well, Kashmir, thank you so much for joining us here on the show. Really appreciate it, and thanks for taking some time to talk to us here on Digital Trends Live.
My pleasure.
I highly encourage everybody to go read that article. It really is eye-opening. Like you said, it's too late. All our images are out there already. So where that goes and what's going to be done with that, well, we'll just have to see what happens. And that's That's fascinating. Really appreciate the New York Times as well for letting us have that interview here on the show and discuss that. And that's part of the fun of this show. We broadcast live here every weekday. We've just covered up a bunch, like thinking about today, of everything that we've talked about from the very beginning to now. And of course, we had Riley Wynn and Caleb Dennison down there in Miami for their coverage of the NFL media event that's happening. And so they're going to be down there covering that. They're going to be talking to players from the San Francisco 49ers, the Kansas City Chiefs. Riley's got some fun tech-related questions that they'll be answering, like who's the best Fortnite player and what's the one piece of tech they can't live without. So all that's going to be coming up, and we'll be playing that tomorrow. And of course, going back live to them during the week because we have lots of coverage of the Super Bowl. Tomorrow, we also have Smart Home editor John Velasco on the show to keep us up to date on what's happening with smart homes. And later this week, we'll also have GoPro's CMO Todd Ballard to chat GoPro and their annual $1 million challenge. You will want to see what is going on with that. So make sure to tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, wherever you consume your content. Make sure to hit subscribe and follow us to get the notifications when we do go live. And for Digital Trends, I'm Greg Nibbler. We'll see you right back here tomorrow.